Feeling antsy, chomping at the bit? You're ready to go? Let's put the binders on a little bit here. You know, I often say, go, but that's to get your feet wet. You know, I'm often saying, let it go, let it all go. But there's another side to all of this, guys. Are you mentally ready? Because, you know, there's this thing called ground zero, the empty nester syndrome, where you want ground zero. And this is another dynamic that I don't touch on too often because I like to see people go to the Philippines. But one of the things that you know, does get lost in all that messaging is, are you mentally ready for it? Okay? Are you ready to let go of what's happening in your native country from just a pure living standpoint, right? Everybody you meet is going to be new. Yay! You can retell those stories all over again to a whole new crowd, but that eventually will peter out. So, you know, you got to have your ducks in a row. Now, the other thing is, you know, now's the time to explore. So that's fine, you know, go there with the exploration thinking in mind. But if your whole thing, you're antsy and you're anxious to get going in that whole 9 yards, you know, there's an old saying that goes, you know, if you're living in a big city, Vancouver's not all that big, but it is big for British Columbia. And, you know, when my son decided that they were going to move to a smaller town, I said to him, you know, you can never go back again. You will not be able to buy back into that market again. And there's a lot of truth to that when it comes to the Philippines too. You know, I've cited Robert's case more than a few times, usually on the medical side. But he was at the point where there was no way he was going to be able to go home without a lot of assistance. So you don't want to sell the farm, you don't want to give up your medical, you don't want to do any of that stuff, guys. Because trust me, how many people, Marky, Shoemate, I think was his last name, he didn't give up on his medical and he was able to go home and get some of it dealt with. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't a good outcome in the whole, you know, at the end of the game. Oh, got me a little rattled. But, you know, there's the point, right? Don't give this stuff up. If you can't afford it, you say, well, I can't afford it, I need that money for the Philippines, then guess what? You probably are never going to be able to go home again. Okay, maybe your pension is really good and all that sort of thing, but you got to be able to have enough money to restart yourself there. And like I said about the pots and pans, you know, take all that stuff with you, but have a backup system in place, right? You know, I've often cited, make sure that you've got contacts and keep in contact with people back in your native country. You never know when you might need their help. Okay, so again, don't get so anxious and antsy and all of that sort of thing that you find yourself doing what, you know, a lot of us see, which is people running away because they really just don't know anything else to do. All they know is that they can't stay in their native country for whatever reason. And so there's a lot of stuff that you need to do to ground yourself. Even just retiring can be a very stressful thing. We all get anxious and we want to do it and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to live day to day. And that's why the tropics isn't a romantic thing. Eventually, you still have to get down to living day to day. So take it slow, guys. Have some exploration time. Hell, go off and see Thailand and Vietnam and some of these other places like Lynn and I did. And maybe at that point, your mindset is going to be in the right place. For some of you, you're just ready to go. Maybe you've done enough travel in your life, and so you know exactly what you're going to be up against. But I do run into people that get themselves in trouble because they move too quickly. Anyway, there we go. Get out of your comfort zone, start exploring, and as I often say, go. Later, Gators.